The most dangerous narcissist is not always the one that's loud. It's not always the one that goes around and brags and whatever. It's the one that they suffer, they struggle, they look like the victim. Um, and that's exactly how they control you. So, welcome back to another episode of Unmask Health. I'm Shelly, your host. Um, I wanted, since the last episode, I talked about narcissism, gaslighters. I wanted to talk about the covert narcissist. And it's not the arrogant one. It's going to be the ones that are quiet, and they're the ones that are the nice ones, and um, they make them feel sorry. Everybody feels sorry for them, right? So, and somehow you still, after all of that, we end up on the other side of that, we end up being the bad guy, right? We're always the bad guy. Um, they thrive off of that. They weaponize their victimhood. Sometimes you'll hear them say, well, I'm just not good enough, or I'm just not, I don't make enough money, or I'm not as good looking as the next person, or I'm not as smart as the next person, whatever. But normally it's just they're not good enough, generally. Um, as nurturers, as natural nurturers, empathizers, we're going to rush to comfort them and to reassure them and to make sure that we're proving our loyalty to them, even though they would never prove their loyalty to you. That's what they do. You will often find yourself abandoning your own feelings about things to comfort them, to make them feel heard and important and whatever. And it's not that they're having insecurity, they know what they're doing. Um, they control they control you, they control me through their sympathy. They find those that are the empathizers, the sympathizers, um, and they, prey on us because they know that we're gonna rush in and we're gonna be like, "Oh, that's not true. You're this and you're great," and blah, 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 blah. But that's what they look for. They actually do not feel that way about themselves. They don't see themselves as victims, but they play the victim because they want to be the center of attention on everything. They don't just come in and just, like, overpower you. They don't come in like, you know, the gaslighters and the narcissistic people that are probably physical abusers. They don't come in just to, like, take control of the whole room. They just wanna take control of that one person to emotionally recruit you to their web of deception is, a lot of times what I say. Um, they make you feel really guilty because they have needs, because they, you know, want to they wanna make sure that you know that they have needs. They don't care anything about your needs though, right? So, they always say stuff like, "I can never do anything right," or, "You're always so disappointed in me." How many times have y'all heard that from people? I mean, like, if you could think either currently or in your past life of one person that has always said, "You're just I can't do enough for you. You're always so disappointed in me. You're never happy with me. I could hang the moon for you and you still would never be satisfied." I think that we probably all have this one person in our life, unfortunately. But your needs, you let their needs overshadow your need. I'm sorry, their needs overshadow your needs, and that's what they want. They want their emotions to precede your emotions, and they want their needs and their wants and whatever to supersede any you could be having surgery. I'll just give you an example. A woman may go in to have a hysterectomy or a C-section, and when you get back to the room while people are around, they're gonna make it seem like they're just really super concerned about you, right? Like, they're just gonna take care of you, and they dote all over you, and, you're in the best hands ever, but when the door closes and those people are gone, it is Total opposite. I didn't sleep. I've been worried sick. I haven't eaten today. My back hurts, my whatever. I don't think I feel good. It becomes about them, but they're never going to like do that in front of other people. And then you, because you're the person that you are, the type of person you are, you're going to start feeling guilty that you even had the freaking surgery to begin with because you're not going to be able to tend to his needs and wants and whatever. But, you know, it's like a passive aggressive type relationship, right? They give you the silent treatment. They give subtle digs, they just like underscore and just do those subtle little digs to you. They withhold affection. That's the big thing. You know, you don't give them what they need or you don't make them feel a certain way, so they don't hold your hand or they won't hug you or they won't give you a kiss goodbye, and they know it's because that will bother you, like, that'll eat you up and you'll start feeling, like, really, really guilty because you were not the person that they needed right then, right? Um, you it's harder to prove a covert narcissist than maybe just like a gaslighter, somebody that's more physical, somebody, whatever, that's more in the public eye. I can tell you that people around me in my past relationship, my experience with a gaslighter, a narcissistic person, everybody around me that got to know him knew immediately that he was that way, that he was controlling, a narcissistic person, a gaslighter. And I was just kind of like, what do you mean? Like, I think he's just had some bad experiences with his, past relationships, and I think he's got some trust issues, and it was always me finding an excuse for this person, to get other people to stop saying negative things about him. I was so naive, so gullible. But, they often look very humble, but they need always reassuring, constant validation. A lot of us walk through life and we don't need validation for who we are or, that we feel a certain way about a certain thing. We validate ourselves because we feel a certain way about something. We have an opinion about something. We're intelligent people. We're allowed to feel that. But these people, they always want that constant validation that their woes are worse, their job is worse, their, past relationships are worse or whatever. They've always been mistreated, misunderstood, that whole thing. And so, but they will turn around and go, "Oh, I don't need attention from you. I don't need you to tell me that. I don't need that." That is yes, they do. They thrive off of it. It's what makes them get up in the morning and put their pants on. Um, They constantly seek reassurance all the time. All day long, they seek reassurance. They may send you 50 text messages all day long, and it's constantly you going back and reassuring that person, like, "Hey, you're not that person. Hey, everything's fine. Oh, you're doing a great job. Oh, you're wonderful. Oh, whatever, blah, 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 blah." And but without that constant reassurance from you, they start to crumble, like, their emotions start to crumble, they start to lash out a little bit, they get angry, they really start laying on the guilt thicker and thicker and thicker, to break you, and you become their emotional caretaker at that point. That's what they want. I mean, I think some of these people, I know we are guilty about saying, "Oh, that's a mama's boy," or "That's a girl dad," whatever. I really think some of those people are these covert narcissistic people, and it may be because their parents were that way, I don't know, but anyway, you become more like their therapist and not their significant other or, their friend or their coworker or whatever. You become like their reassurance in the middle of the night, like you're always there, you're always gonna be the positive, you're always gonna downplay anything that has to do with you because you're having to, like, upbuild this person and uptick their life all the time, and so that's what they just thrive off of that. You're like their emotional regulator, you become I don't know anything about vehicles, but maybe you're like the carburetor of the vehicle or, the water pump of the vehicle. You just regulate their life all the time, and so if you stop, they're gonna make you feel guilty, and then they're gonna start doing all that stupid crap like withdrawing attention, they don't wanna hug, I just mentioned that a little while ago, um, and something happens, like, you could be having a conversation, something happened earlier in the day between the 2 of you, and you could come out and go, "Hey, you know that what you said earlier to me, when you called me a lazy, or you called me a fat whatever, or you called me, um, inconsiderate or whatever." You can look at them and they said it, and they know that they said it, but you can look at them and go, "Hey, that hurt me earlier, what you said." And they will literally look at you and go, "Oh, I guess my feelings don't matter then." And it almost is like you reach a boiling point with these people because it's not invalidating their feelings. You want your feelings validated for once. Just one time, you want your feelings about something and your emotions about something validated by these people. They're not going to give it to you. They're just not. They're going to drain you like a leech. They're just not going to do it. Now you find yourself just apologizing for everything. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. Your feelings are very important. I'm just over exaggerating, or I'm just, um, I guess too emotional. I'm just too sensitive to what you said, and that's my fault. Maybe you're right. Maybe I was being a B word. Maybe you're right. Maybe I was being lazy. Maybe I do need to exercise, whatever." I mean, it's almost like they know that they pick on the negatives that you already know about yourself, right? Because they weaponize it against you. The biggest thing is being overweight. Um, and maybe you've got a flaw about something like stretch marks, you have a mole in a certain place that you're not happy about. But they will weaponize that against you because they know that's how they can like pull you back in and go, "Hey, you really do have that problem. You really are overweight. You really do have that ugly mole on your face. You really do whatever." And they will weaponize it against you to reel you back in and go, "No, you can't be the center of attention. It's all on me. It has to be about me." Um, you can walk in genuinely. Most of us are like genuine, sincere people, and we care about, I mean, we don't have humanity much in this world anymore. So when you find people that have humanity, you should like hang on to them really hard. But they search those people out. The loner, the one that kind of is always, reaching out to others, making sure everybody else is okay but themselves because they know that they can weaponize yourself, your own emotions against you so that they're the center of attention. But you can genuinely like walk into a room with a concern or walk up to them with a concern, talk to them about something that they did or may have said or whatever, and you will absolutely leave shouldering every bit of their pain and their guilt instead. It absolutely diverts away from, how they made you feel, what they said, whatever. You'll walk away from that situation, like I said in the last episode, going, "What just happened?" Like, I don't feel like I'm crazy, but maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am just exaggerating. And now I've hurt him, and now he's all upset, or she's all upset, and she's being quiet, and she's whatever, and that is just a game. It's a gimmick. It's all it is. It's almost like, um, a money gimmick. We hear about all this stuff all the time about money gimmicks. This is what they thrive. They're just human gimmicks is what they are. But they are harder to leave. I mean, they we tend to make excuses for them. You will tend to make excuses for them, just like I was doing with my family and friends with my ex was, "Yeah, but I don't, he means well. Um, he didn't really mean it that way," or "You're just over exaggerating what he said. You're taking it out of context." That was one thing that I would always say. "You're just taking that out of context. He didn't mean it like that. He's just had a bad experience before. He just needs to rebuild his trust, and I'm gonna help him with that." It was just looking back now, I find myself to be somewhat intelligent. I am pretty intelligent. I will say that. I don't know, and I'm taught to assess human beings, like, that's my job, and so I ridiculed myself for a long time, like, I was mad at myself because I missed all the red flags, but it's because it's not talked about enough, and it's not put out there enough for other people to recognize. Even though other people around you recognize it, you're in it. So, and you care for this person and you love this person, and so you don't see things the way that other people see them. And when people bring it to your attention, you just automatically make excuses for them. But that's what they want. That's what they're after. Um, and that's why you stay. You stay and tolerate because one, you feel guilty. You don't want to hurt their feelings. They're already like in so much pain because their job sucks, or their best friend quit talking to them, or their fish died, or, they don't have a nice boat like their coworker Joe does, whatever. Um, and the truth of it all, and something that I really had to learn later after I had left the relationship, was that just because he was hurting, just because he had problems, just because he was feeling pain or whatever, it didn't give him the right to turn around and hurt me, you know? And it doesn't give anybody any reason to hurt you. You shouldn't have to shoulder somebody else's hurt and pain and just be so dismissed by people, by that person. And they get so good at it. They start to control things, the way you feel about yourself and the way you feel about every situation, and you find yourself being like a chronic apologizer, and you find yourself not just apologizing to him, but then just in your day-to-day life, you may drop something at work, or you may spill a cup at the restaurant and you're just overly apologizing, just over minute things. And so normally now I know the signs, and I usually go if I'm around somebody that's like a chronic apologizer for nothing. They turn the radio up too loud, or they accidentally, I don't know, marked on your shirt or something because they were walking by you, whatever. They are like, and they genuinely mean like they're sorry. They just want everything to be fixed, so they're going to take all the blame right then. But these covert narcissist people, they know what they're doing. That's the thing. That it's a game for them. It's crazy. And just know that if you're in a situation like this, and now you can sit back and go, well, that sounds like me, or that sounds like the person I'm with. Just know that you're not crazy. Um, you're probably dealing with a covert narcissist if this episode resonates at all with you. And so now that you see it, you can't unsee it. I want you to start noticing again, like the last episode, you start noticing patterns. Write it down. Send text messages back and forth. Talk to somebody that you trust. And because at the end of the day, some of us do need validation that we're not losing our mind, that we're not over exaggerating, because women are often accused of being too emotional, or, whatever. And that to me is just, that's another thing about narcissistic people. They will absolutely, especially a male narcissist, they would just say females are just too emotional. There ain't no reason to be emotional now. There ain't no whatever. It's just so dismissive, and they don't recognize that when they say things like that, it invalidates you as a human, and it makes you feel like, maybe I did over exaggerate, maybe I am too oversensitive, and so you start finding in yourself that you're making yourself smaller and smaller and smaller until you no longer exist anymore, and you don't have to live like that. You don't have to. You can leave. Um, we we don't have to be with people, and we don't have to allow people to treat us that way. It's just you have to recognize it for what it is. Yes, you love this person. Yes, you appreciate this person. Yes, they probably did something good for you, or, they probably do get up and fix your coffee every once in a while. And maybe they do take care of the yard every weekend. And maybe, they will drive you to the grocery store or whatever, but at what cost? Like, how small are you now? You used to be like this big robust person and very not popular, I'm not saying that, but like dependable. And people came to you and you were the jovial person of the group. And maybe if you were not like this over jovial, whatever cheerleader person, you were a dependable person. And now you're not, because you've shrunk yourself so much to make sure that there's more room for this person. And I just want you to start recognizing that and pick up on it, and you can start doing something about it. Leave, get away from it. You're not going to change these people. You either set those boundaries and go, hey, this is how it's going to be, or it's not going to be anything at all. Don't keep sacrificing yourself. We're not meant to do that. Um, The thing is that I want you to remember too that you're deserving of better treatment than that, by anybody. I don't care if it's a significant other, a parent, a cousin, whatever. You know, you don't have to shrink yourself to make somebody else feel better, more comfortable, whatever. You know, don't do that because they would never do that for you. That's the thing. Yes, people are gonna mistreat you. They're not gonna treat you like you treat them. Like we are grown folks. Like we understand that. But that's like a one encounter, two encounter, whatever. You may have a coworker that's not very talkative, whatever. You know, you may have to work with them for 10 or 15 minutes every day, whatever that looks like. But you don't have to go home at the end of the day and wake up in the morning time and be like, a minuscule person, like just a minute, small person. You deserve the same respect that you give. You deserve the same love that you give out. You deserve, the same time that you spend with people. You deserve that in return. And if you're not getting that, how much are you willing to keep sacrificing of yourself? And you shouldn't. You should say, moving forward today, I'm going to listen to this lady and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. That's what I want you to do. Reach out to me by email. I would love to hear your story. If you got away, how you recognized it, um, how you would want to help other people. If you want to be a part of the show, I'll be glad to interview, whatever we can do at Covert, whatever. But just remember that they don't break you loudly. These covert narcissist people don't break you loudly. They will absolutely come in and they will wear you down quietly until you're nothing. Um, Next week, I think I'm going to talk about manipulation. And, if you have any other ideas or whatever you want to discuss something, just reach out to me. Bye.